I agree that, you know, what made the original Iron Man, the origin story, work so well is that it was plausible. And then we had a bunch of fun doing the second one. And this time I feel like, again, speaking of alternate realities, you know, there's a way that that Tony can interact with the Avengers, because he's already had hints that this Nick Fury guy is clearly stringing him along. And so he's in the dark about it, so it shouldn't be that big a surprise. At the same time, I think it's kind of through Tony's eyes that you have to see and buy into some of these bigger ideas now, you know. I think he's curious, and it's hard for him to ingest what's going on, so he wants to go see it firsthand, but he's still himself. Probably in storytelling, you know, John Campbell mode, he's searching. With Rhodey, he realized he's not an island, and so there was a kind of a partnership, you know, outside of his with Pepper, and I think this time it's about that group mind and that, you know, we is better than I. He's a tough guy, and he has generalship, which is what this required, you know. You think of like Joe Johnston on Cap, it was like, you know, I bet that guy really said, look, we're mashing up genres and I'm going to really marshal this thing through. You think about Ken Branagh for Thor. There's no better person that Hemsworth could have had this kind of interaction and tutelage from. And for me, John was a natural fit. So again, I think, you know, aside from casting, the thing that Marvel does best is they pick the right directors for their projects. And it's always an exciting announcement, but it also always has that extra thing of, oh, you know what? I wouldn't have necessarily thought that, but retrospectively, it makes perfect sense. I'd always felt that Mark was the guy to play Bruce Banner, because there's something kind of immensely introspective and affable about the guy that makes that curse or that opportunity or that karma he has, which is not of his doing, but his responsibility to manage some way. You know, he's just kind of, and he's just a really kind of funny, quirky guy, but he's a straight shooter. And I think that's probably the most important thing, you know.
The world around him is a different place. You know, he's from a different era, and I think that era really defines who he is. I think the modern day is a bit more flash and style and a bit more selfish and a bit more impersonal. You know, there's a lot of technologies that put blocks in between people, and you know, the 40s, there was much more of a maybe a direct and honest sincerity to the way people behaved, and I think human interaction breeds manners, you know, and just you know, it's a way of life that I think Steve had just become accustomed to, and it's a different world that he has to get used to. It's so nice that as the Avengers are finding their niche within a group, so are we as people. And it's great. So far, it's been a very healthy family. You know, it's almost too good to be true right now. I should knock on wood, because things have gone so disgustingly well. It's almost, like I said, it's almost unbelievable. I hope it lasts, you know, because we get along so well. There's not, and I said this earlier, one bad apple could spoil the bunch. You know, you get one stick in the mud and it changes the dynamic. I think everybody in this cast is so fantastic. We get along so well. I think Cap, you know, feels a little bit of a kinship with the guy. They're both saddled with an immense amount of responsibility. They're both kind of fish out of water. You know, Banner had done a good job of hiding and doing his own thing, and then he's brought back to a place that he didn't choose to be. And he's adjusting to a foreign environment just like I am. So I think there are similarities to their characteristics, or to their situation at least. And I think for the most part, you know, I feel like Cap is kind of like a parent in a lot of ways. You know, I think he just looks out for people. Banner is obviously in a sensitive situation, so I think Cap is doing what he can to make him feel comfortable and adjusted. And Ruffalo, I can't say enough about Ruffalo. He's fantastic. He's one of those actors that's like, he throws himself into it.
This isn't usually the type of movie that I've been in or been invited to do, and it was the one, you know, character in other than Wolverine that I actually thought I could do well, and so I was you know, I was a little scared because there was no script yet, but I was also really excited because of what I'd seen Marvel do with Iron Man and with Robert Downey, who, you know, is a great actor, is one of my kind of hero actors. And when I saw what he did, which kind of felt like recreated the genre a little bit, I felt like, hey, I could fit into that world. For so long, I think Bruce Banner's been trying to negate his anger, his rage. And because he's trying to negate it all the time, it has to manifest itself in other ways, and eventually it just blows up and explodes. And so there's this very cool thing where he's like, instead of trying not to be angry, he just accepts that he's angry. And maybe it's like a vaccination that way. By taking a little bit of what will kill you, you actually start to develop some immunity to it. And I really think that's been his journey. He doesn't really know it, and he's hoping that when he does turn into the Hulk, he is going to have some control over it, but he doesn't know for sure. And so it's a big gamble, it's a big risk for him, because he doesn't want to hurt people. It's amazing. He was the first person I called when they offered it to me, and I was like, Robert, you know, there's no script. I mean, I don't really know what. Buddy, it's fine. We're gonna do this. We're gonna kill this. Come on, let's have fun. And you know, I had a great time working with him on Zodiac, and you know, he's really a fun actor to work with. He's so alive. He's so spontaneous and present that you know, I knew in his presence I'd be in really good hands. And he's just a very generous actor. He's just, you know, really looks out for the people that he's working with. And from very early on was watching the script as it developed and like giving his input to help Bruce Banner actually show nicely in the movie. First of all, I hope they just have a great wild ride, which I'm pretty certain they will. And then I hope they want to see the next one. I hope they fall in love with them as a group.
He's conveniently come back briefly because Odin's summoned some dark powers from the universe, and it's very costly. But he's come back to retrieve Loki, who's running madness on Earth and, you know, bringing chaos, and also to ask some questions. You know, that Loki's been missing and now he's turned up on Earth, and so Thor wants to know, you know, why and how did this happen and where did we go wrong and what have you. It's a different sort of arc to, you know, in Thor. He started, it was probably not more of an obvious arc. He started as an arrogant, petulant sort of kid, and by the end of it had to become a noble warrior and learn some humility. In this film, you know, he begins as a sort of noble warrior with the right intentions, but all of that is then tested, I think, in the way he, you know, decides to sort of what's more important, his family values or the protection of, you know, civilization, you know, or his personal relationship with his brother or the team he's fighting with now and has agreed to fight with. So it's sort of more subtle, I guess, but also his arc is, what's more important is the story's arc as opposed to his individual sort of journey.
Well, I think the first time that we saw this character, we didn't really know much about her. We never learned much about the Widow. She's really, you know, I think she's a slippery fish in Iron Man 2, and you know, we get little glimpses of her, you know, her true identity, but it all happens so quickly. To be able to play, you know, the Black Widow as she is without, you know, these many faces. I mean, she still has many different faces she puts on. I think she still is sort of divisive in that way, but we get to see a little bit more of who she is little bit of her history, of her kind of shady past. The Black Widow, when we first find her, is she's, you know, being tasked. She is in Russia. She is, you know, in the middle of taking care of business. And she is then sent for by Nick Fury, and I think all of these characters are sort of reluctant superheroes in a sense. She looks at it as just kind of another job. You know, she's basically out there kind of recruiting the team. And, you know, she doesn't know much about this world.
I mean, I was vaguely familiar with, obviously, like Captain America, like the bigger ones, but I was never into comics, so whatever kind of made it to a cartoon, I probably watched it. Yeah, it was really kind of unfamiliar, which is I thought it was kind of a benefit for me, because I had no sort of preconceived ideas about anything. And then when I went to meet Kevin Feige about the idea, he was showing me like images and stuff, and then the images were more of the Ultimates apparently, and I just like the idea that he's a human being, he just has a high skill set, and that he's kind of a rogue thing.
Loki in Thor was the lost prince of Asgard. He was the damaged second son, younger brother, and in a way, Thor was the journey of his self-possession, his self-discovery about being who he was. He's not an Odin son, therefore he's Thor's adopted brother. And Thor was about him becoming the god of mischief. At the beginning of the Avengers, he's already the god of mischief. He knows who he is. He knows what he wants. He doesn't need his family anymore. He doesn't need Odin anymore or Thor. And he's more like the god of menace. So rather than being a lost Asgardian prince, he's more like an Asgardian pirate.
That is the origin here. You have all this diverse, strong personalities, and they come. And the film is they have to come together. So the coming together, like any team, like any family, is what is at the core of the story. And actually, it's the fun of the film, seeing them fight, the dynamics between them. Some get along, some side with others. But in the end, when they're faced with the ultimate villain, they come together as a team. They work together beautifully. I'm so excited about the film. Having seen some sequences put together, it's hard. You want to contain your excitement all the time because you never know what's going to happen. But it is absolutely thrilling seeing our superheroes come to life as one team.
You can still relate to them on some level, and they still keep their human qualities in terms of caring for others, wanting to do good. You want to aspire to be like them, and I think like not only is it like a really fun visual movie-going experience, it's also like, especially with Joss coming onto this project, he's so good at like making them true characters. Like, it's not just guys hitting things and things blowing up. Like, there's a story, there's a through line, and I think that that's really important.
Shift